Max is a proud graduate of Eagle Hill School, class of 2010. Please join me in welcoming our speaker, Max Schaefer.
I really wanted to kick things off with a joke this morning, but after previewing some of that material with my wife on the way here, she said I'm definitely not allowed to do it. So unfortunately, I'm just going to have to jump right in. Before we get started, I want to thank Aaron and the whole Eagle Hill community for having me here today. It's great to be back, and in a way it really does feel like I'm back, because in preparing for this speech, I asked Dr. Riendo, who was my English teacher while I was here, to proofread and review what you're about to hear. He kindly agreed. We set a deadline together, and then I promptly missed it. Just like old times. But more importantly, graduates, I want to congratulate each one of you on being here today. If your path was anything like mine, getting here wasn't necessarily a straight line. In fact, if your path was anything like mine, it's what some have termed a close call. But I'm truly honored to be giving this speech. If you read my bio, you'll know that it wasn't that long ago that I sat in your exact seats. At least I thought it hadn't been that long until I did the math and realized that it had been 16 years and most of you were like 2 or 3 when I was being handed my diploma. Well, I have a 3-year-old. She's actually sitting here in the audience today. And we promised her she could binge watch Paw Patrol the whole ride home, so she agreed to come. By that math, it stands to reason that when I was graduating, some of your parents were likely the age that I am today. And I really regret doing that mental exercise because it's the first time that I've ever felt truly, genuinely old. But that's actually a good segue into what I want to spend the next 45 minutes talking to you about. I timed it. It's less than 10. Don't worry. When I was preparing for this, I really tried to ask myself what I would have wanted to hear, ideally, when I was graduating, and maybe more importantly, what I would have rolled my eyes at. And so I'm really hoping that you guys aren't going to roll your eyes at me. So I'm not going to commend you for how hard you've worked, tell you that the future's yours, that the sky's the limit, or to never give up. Your parents and teachers have spent the last 4 or 5 years doing that, and while I'm sure it's true, I'm sure you're sick of hearing it. Instead, I thought I would talk about something tangible and concrete: time. There are basically 2 important things I want to say about time, and the first, I hope, is more practical. If you're anything like me, right now you have some sort of plan. A plan for how the next 4 years will go, what you'll major in, what you'll minor in, where you'll study abroad, where you'll find beer when you get to college campus. Maybe not. And generally how your lives will pan out. When I left Eagle Hill, I was convinced that I was going to be a famous musician, and that my freshman year at college was strictly perfunctory. As you can see, they haven't exactly invited me here on tour, so let me be a proof point that the next 4 years and your path from here is unlikely to look the way you see it in your mind's eye today. But I actually think that's a pretty good thing, because right now, you have more time on your side than you ever will again, and that's a gift. Why is that a gift? Right now, you have enough time on your side to try something, fail, and basically reset the clock and try again. You have time, and you should certainly take it, to experiment and make mistakes. And counter to what you think, it's important that you make those mistakes and not let ChatGPT make them for you, which it seems all too willing to do. A large part of where I am today is because of the mistakes that I've made on my own path. For a long time, I tried to avoid making them, but now I try to lean into it as part of the process. And some of the most successful and inspiring people I know do this. Most of the work I do professionally is spent evaluating and investing in companies and their founders. My job basically is to pick the best opportunities and try to avoid complete disaster. The businesses I support and the people running them can look very different from one another, but I think there are 2 things that all great founders have in common. 1, they've almost always taken a winding and indirect path, and 2, they embrace making mistakes as part of the process of growing. They're not afraid to make mistakes. So what I'd say to you, whether you want to start and run a business of your own one day, become a famous artist or musician like myself, or be a molecular biologist, is to set that specific goal aside for a moment and use the next phase of your life and the time you have as an opportunity to explore different paths and interests. It's okay, and in fact, I think it's inevitable that you take a detour wherever you're headed. In a world where generating a research report or an Excel model can now literally happen at the press of a button, and specialized skills are becoming increasingly commoditized and everything seems to be moving at warp speed, I think you should use the gift of time to learn across fields and disciplines. Take classes you're interested in, even if they don't perfectly fit your major. 16 years from now, you won't remember me, but you might thank yourselves. My advice, seniors, is to treat the next 4 years like an adventure and not a checklist. Don't try to plan out every single thing. And to be clear and to reassure your parents, I'm not suggesting that you skip studying your exams and completely wing it. That's not adventure, that's just winging it. But remember that you can afford to be wrong and make mistakes as you figure out what makes you tick. Okay, now if you can believe it, the less practical element of what I want to say today. On one hand, I'm telling you that you have all the time in the world. But I should be honest and tell you that it's going to go by quicker than you think. And that sounds like a paradox. It is. What should we do? I think the best we can do is to simply try to be and live in the moment. I personally find it difficult to slow down and take a deep breath. And by the way, in the first draft of this speech, I was going to try to make us all take a collective deep breath. But I decided to cut that from the speech, so you're welcome. That's one of the jokes my wife made me cut. I think she was probably right about not leading with that. I find it difficult sometimes to pause and appreciate what's in front of me. But it's definitely worth doing, so let me try an example with all of you. Seniors, look at each other for a moment. Go ahead and you can do it, for real. Okay, some of you today are going to get in your cars after this and drive home. Others are going to head to the airport and fly back to different states, maybe even countries. And then that's it. High school's over. And it's very likely that you won't see some of the same people you just spent the last 4 or 5 years living, studying with, and going to class with again. Why am I telling you that? Well, it's certainly not to be a downer, but to highlight how important it is to appreciate the moment, the time you have, while you have it. So reflect on this for a minute. How else might you have spent your time while you were here? Would you have done anything differently? How will you be in the moment moving forward? We've talked a lot about time today, and I can see I'm kind of pushing the limits of my own time here on stage. So I want to wrap things up with a quote from a much better speech giver than myself. Here's Teddy Roosevelt, the 26th President of the United States, and don't worry, this has nothing to do with time. It is not the critic who counts, not the one who points out how the strong person stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the person who is actually in the arena, who strives valiantly and who errs, who comes short again and again, because there's no effort without error and shortcoming. The credit belongs to those who actually strive to do the deeds, who know great enthusiasms and great devotions, who at best know, in the end, the triumph of high achievement, and who at their worst, if they fail, at least fail while daring greatly, so that their place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. So, graduates, strive, fail, don't be timid. Change course and change it again. Learn. Lean into your lives. Get into the arena. Since graduating from this school, and largely because of this school, my life has been a beautiful adventure. It's had its fair share of trials and disappointments, as will yours, but it's been full of beauty and wonder. I wish you all the best of luck, and I wonder what beautiful things are in store for each of you. Go find out. Thank you.
So Max, it's been a pleasure and a privilege to have you back on campus today, and thank you so much for agreeing to be here. A small token of our appreciation, Max Schaefer, class of 2010, commencement speaker, Eagle Hill School. So thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.